Hello guys, today we're going to be doing a video on Overwatch 2's beta with the GTX 1060. We're running a Ryzen 3700X with 32GB of RAM running at 3200 MHz. Alright, let's jump into the settings. We're going to be starting it off with 1080p on the low preset. Alright, let's get started with the CPU test. The game does require a Ryzen 5 CPU. It doesn't tell us what specific model, but a 3700X is a Ryzen 5 CPU. And playing at 1080p low with FSR enabled, set the quality preset, we are getting 190 FPS and we're still not CPU bottlenecked. GPU is fully maxed at 97% usage, and looking at our CPU cores, it looks like it's around 2 to 4 cores. Alright, let's get started with our actual benchmark now. We are playing the game at 1080p low. Frame rate is so far sitting in the 160s or the high 150s. It's feeling very fluid, very smooth right now, which is good. You know, for recommended settings, for recommended system requirements, it's running really well. Usually it's like targeted for 60 FPS, but we're getting over 160, 150 very easily. FSR is disabled as well now, so it's all native. And even on low settings, the game still does look really good. Can't really complain too much about the game's looks. The FPS does bounce around quite a bit, jumping between 140s to 170s depending on what you're doing. But you don't really feel the FPS drops at all. It feels very fluid the whole time. So low settings is a very competitive setting. Doesn't look bad, it runs well, and it gives you high enough frame rate that you can actually take advantage of a 144Hz screen. Alright, let's jump into medium settings. Alright, jumping into 1080p medium settings, we're going to be playing a deathmatch here. Frame rates are looking very similar to the low setting. It's ranging between 140 to 170. We just had a dip into the 120s there. I was expecting a bit more in terms of FPS drop, but it's running really well now. I guess we'll see how it runs in the actual game. Alright, jumping into an actual match. Still running at medium settings. You can actually see a major dip in our performance. In deathmatch, we're sitting in the ranges of 130 to 170, which is very similar to low settings. But in the actual match, the game is running at 120 to 140, so we lost 30 FPS here and there. Now, the game's overall feel is still very similar to 1080p low. I can't really complain about the mouse movement or the game's overall feel itself. It's very similar, pretty much identical to low settings. But the quality also is very similar. I can't really tell a difference comparing the two, but maybe that's just me. So far, I would rather play at 1080p low than play at medium settings. With the actual system requirements that was posted online, it said something like 1080p medium settings and then in brackets 60 FPS with a 1060. So it's kind of surprising how we can get twice the amount of the expected FPS on medium settings. Without FSR, obviously, this is all running native. Alright, let's jump into high. Now, playing at high settings, we can actually see our FPS has taken a massive hit. We were sitting in the 120s, 130s at medium setting, and now we're actually in the low 100s and dipping into the high 90s as well at times. Now, VRAM is sitting at 2.9 gigs, so... Oh, we're actually going up to 3 gigs as well right now. So if you got a 3GB 1060, you can definitely play the game at medium or low settings and still have around the same performance as this video. Now the thing is with 1080p high, we've lost around 40-50 FPS compared to low settings, depending on the situation. But what are we really getting for the actual performance loss? I still can't tell the difference. They all look very similar to each other, low, medium, and high. Which I guess is a good thing for low settings, because low settings actually looks really good and performs really well. And I guess it all depends on you. If you rather sacrifice some FPS to get slightly better visuals, like 30 to 50 FPS, or if you rather have the most amount of FPS you can get out of your card. Now, if you're playing on a 60Hz screen, it won't affect you too much. Playing at 110 FPS compared to 150, they both feel identical to each other pretty much. But if you're playing on a 144Hz screen or above, 240Hz, it's better just to play on low settings and just get the most amount of FPS you can get out of the card. Alright, jumping into the Epic preset, which is our max setting now. we are sitting in pretty much the low 60s. So this is the 60 FPS experience. Now, playing right now, the actual feel is pretty awful. The mouse movement compared to playing at 110 FPS is crazy different. The actual mouse movement feels very sluggish right now. Yeah, like I was saying, the mouse movement feels very sluggish right now. But the actual animations and the movement still feel pretty good. Trying to make fast-paced plays, like turning quickly and running around, doing dashes, it makes it very difficult playing at 60 FPS. And I guess you could get used to this, used to playing at 60 FPS, but you're putting yourself at a pretty massive disadvantage. Now I'm wondering how this is going to run with FSR enabled, because by default the preset has FSR enabled, but I've disabled it for this test just to run it at native quality, and we're still sitting in the low 60s. So even without FSR, we're still running great. Alright, let's go ahead and turn on FSR. I've enabled the FSR now, and I'm kind of disappointed. We haven't really gained much. Still sitting in the low 60s, dipping into the high 50s, sometimes in the low 70s. Yeah, I was expecting... Now I believe with FSR it says FSR quality, so I'm guessing it's running on the quality preset of AMD FSR 1.0. But even then, it's not really doing much. Maybe it needs a restart. It never told me that the game needed to restart when I enabled FSR, but it is what it is, I guess. You're getting low 60 to low 70 FPS experience. Alright, I think I'll have the video here, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a like, and that subscription, really highly appreciate it. See you next time.